right, folks, welcome back. Episode number 2. All right, we're back at it. Today we're going over the breath. And it's something super easy to forget about just because it's an unconscious thing. But the reason why I have it as my second pillar or on the second episode today is because it has huge physical and mental implications, and I'll go over that. So before we get into those implications and how our breathing affects our physiology, I want to go over 2 ways that you can practice your breath. And the second method is one that I use a lot and I'm pretty excited about. So my first one is just going in and out as much as you can. So I'll take a big inhale. I'll go nice and slow, and I start with my the lower part of my stomach. And as I keep inhaling, it's almost like a wave that kind of goes through. So I'll start with my lower stomach, then my middle stomach, sternum, okay, chest, upper chest, and I'll pin my shoulders back. And I'll hold it for a second, and then I go back down the same way, okay? So then I'll start with my shoulders, I'll bring them back down, then my upper chest, sternum, upper stomach, mid stomach, and lower stomach. So it's kind of a wave. And that way I just take my time, I go inhale and exhale as much as I can, and that way it teaches me really how to breathe when I'm not stressed. And so when I am stressed, I always fall back on that practice because that's really important, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, the second method that I want to talk about is called the Wim HoF Method. The Wim HoF Method is really simple. It takes about 15 minutes at the most, but it's super effective for just kind of clearing the mind and just revitalizing the body. It's absolutely incredible for what you can feel before and after. So what you want to do is you just want to take 30 inhales and exhales, okay? So an inhale and an exhale would look like okay, so notice that I'm taking a deep breath in, as deep as I can go, and I have a light exhale. So the whole point is to overload the body with more oxygen and flush out the CO2, that carbon dioxide. And so after we do those 30 inhales and exhales, on the last one, we will exhale everything out and we'll hold our breath for as long as we can, okay? And then as soon as you feel like you need to breathe again, you take a deep breath in, you hold 10 to 15 seconds and relax. So you want to do a total of 3 rounds. Now again, in combination of those 2 breathing methods, so just practicing maximal inhale and exhales plus the Wim Hof method, you start to breathe more efficiently. All right, and so when you start breathing with your belly, you want to imagine that you're filling up a balloon. So the belly expands, you fill that balloon up, expand into the chest, then you can exhale and squeeze that balloon out. And so then that way you're not restricted by any tight muscles or diaphragm muscles in the upper chest when you try to breathe. So when we start breathing effectively, especially with the Wim Hof, what are the physical benefits of this? Well, first of all, like I mentioned before, you start to drive up your oxygen levels in your blood. So you're taking down the carbon dioxide levels. And what happens is your blood pH actually shifts to a more alkaline state. And they've actually tested this in university studies. So typically blood alkaline levels are about 7.4, which is pretty base. That's right in the middle. And then you can actually, after doing the Wim Hof method, you can start moving to a 7.6 and sometimes even up to an 8.0. And so the benefits of having a more alkaline state of blood is basically that your neurotransmitters and your brain function, starts to improve. So now that you're starting to access certain parts of the brain and neurotransmitters are starting to fire, you can start to access certain other parts of the body that were thought to be almost involuntary for quite a while. And I'm talking more so specifically about the immune system. So Wim Hof was able to, after doing these breathing techniques, was able to access the vagus nerve, which controls the immune system. And he was actually able to fight off a small amount of neurotoxins that were injected into his body. So he was in a study where scientists injected him with a bacteria that wasn't deadly or anything like that. It would just cause fever-like symptoms. So he would get headaches, elevated core temperature, vomiting, stuff like that. But he was able to control and fight off with his own immune system this neurotoxin. So they had a control group where people were injected with this stuff, got a fever, he was able to totally combat it. So it's not just him, but he's actually taught other people to do this as well. So what you're doing is when you're holding your breath, you're actually eliciting a huge adrenaline and cortisol spike in the body. And this is something that you normally don't encounter in everyday life. Typically, you just have stresses of your job, of your relationships. I know here in Orlando, I get a shit ton of traffic and that stresses me out. So we have all of these things our body's not used to, and it's different stresses, so we can't handle it quite as well. But when we do the Wim HoF method, it's more of a primal stress that allows us to engage our bodies in a way that we're used to. And so things, like your immune system, as far as white blood cells, they start to calm down. A lot of anti-inflammatory properties are seen with exposure to cold in combination of this, and I'll go over that next time. But when our immune system starts to work properly, a lot of autoimmune diseases starts to come into play, because we can actually start to see that people are able to fight this off just by doing Wim Hof and cold therapy. So very interesting as far as what our own bodies can do. And it's exciting to see how you feel actually before and after this. And so in addition to strengthening the immune system, we are actually seeing at a cellular level our mitochondria respond to the amount of oxygen that is being put into the body. So if you remember back to grade school, mitochondria are considered the powerhouse of the cell. So we are getting into a cellular respiration here just by normal inhale and exhales, okay? So it's very important to be very conscious of how you're breathing, and that we are not just taking shallow chest breaths, that we're being deliberate with the belly and really focusing on getting a good amount of oxygen in with every breath. Now, how does this play a part in the mental game? Well, it's a big part of focus, and if you've ever done meditation, they always say come back and focus on your breath. So if your mind's wandering, you got a whole bunch of things going on, always come back to the breath. Well, that's one thing that has always challenged me, especially when I was riding, is that I would start thinking about other things. I would think about how I was riding, how I was supposed to ride, and I wouldn't concentrate on my breath. So whenever you start to get arm pump or you're on the gate and you're really nervous, always come back to your breath, because that's what brings you present, okay? If you ever want to get back into that flow state where you just feel like, holy crap, I can ride like Ryan Villapoto and just it comes so easy, that's what you got to concentrate on. Always come back to the belly breath. That's why we practice, and it will bring you back into the moment, and you'll be able to just think about nothing essentially. So all you have to do is just ride and do what you know best, and that is just ride the motorcycle to the best of your ability. And so that wraps up breathing, okay? And I might go into a little bit more detail in later videos about other topics, or as more information comes up, because this stuff is still relatively new for myself and for the scientific community. So I want you guys to go ahead, like the page, subscribe, share, and if you haven't done so already, go to my website, subscribe to my newsletter. I got a whole bunch of other things coming out, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.